Whatever happened to Doom-style FPSs? This used to be a booming genre with games like Doom, Quake, and Duke Nukem, and now they barely exist. Even games like Hard Reset and Duke Nukem Forever, which might claim to be old school, you could argue aren't. So, what happened? Are these kinds of games just fundamentally flawed? Are modern Halo-style FPSs fundamentally better? I certainly don't think that's the case, and today I'll be talking about why I think the Doom-style FPS should still be around. Now, there's certainly a lot of reasons why they're not around today, and by the way, I think the main reason starts with C and rhymes with Schnonsel, but I don't think the fact that the games are fundamentally flawed is one of them. Now, just to make sure we're all on the same page here, I should probably talk about how I'm defining a Doom-style FPS versus a more modern Halo-style FPS. Now, I would categorize it three main ways, and there's plenty of other ways, but I'm just going to focus on these three for now. Now, the first one, in a Doom-style FPS, you can carry all of your weapons at the same time, versus a Halo-style FPS where you can carry two at once. A Doom-style FPS, the second way, a Doom-style FPS relies on placing health and ammo pickups and placing armor and all that, whereas a Halo-style FPS relies more on weapon or health regeneration and picking up your weapons and ammo pickups from killing monsters versus those being pre-placed in the map. And then the third and final thing is in a Doom FPS, you're mostly relying on movement as your way of defense, of defending against monster attacks and everything, versus in a Halo-style FPS, you're more reliant on cover and hiding behind walls and rocks and things, and letting your shields and in some cases health regenerate. So to me, those are the three main differences between a Doom-style FPS and a Halo-style FPS. So, now that we have the differences between the two genres established, I'd like to go over some reasons why I feel like the Doom-style FPS is still a very fundamentally sound genre of game, and I feel like there should absolutely be more of these. So, I have three reasons here, and I'd like to go over them all. So, the first reason is that having lots of weapons gives you a variety of options for handling each situation. Now, a good staple of depth in a game is basically having various ways to attack a different situation. If you don't have a lot of options to handle a different situation, the game feels very much like it's on rails. It doesn't give you a good. It doesn't give you. It's a lot more stimulating mentally, a lot more interesting to kind of use your brain to figure out how to solve something versus kind of having it all laid out for you. If I'm in a firefight and there's only like really one good weapon to use in that situation, like to me that's not very interesting. The only difficulty that comes from that situation comes from execution, and that's not really as much fun as it is to figure out what kind of weapon to use in that situation. Kind of figure out what options you have, and kind of use your brain to figure out what you're supposed to do there. So it's a lot more satisfying to have all these different options when you go into a situation to kind of take it down. Just having all these artificial limits placed on you by only having two weapons in a given situation, it's not as fun. You're limiting the difficulty to being execution based, and that's just it's never a good thing. Now, using Wrack as an example, because hey, that's what I know. We've tried to make sure that each weapon generally has a primary situation that it does very well in, and it generally does better than every other weapon. For instance, the pistol, it's a really good range weapon for attacking basically smaller monsters, things like turrets and artillery soldiers, all that stuff. Whereas like the Hyperblade is primarily best up close against melee monsters like the Crushers and Crawlers and all that. However, using the distance example, the pistol, you can use the shotgun. It's not best in that situation, but certainly you can use it. So at a distance, I mean, you have the option of using the pistol, you have the option of using the shotgun. you can use the pulsar, but it's not great for that. And certainly, like the hyperblade is not going to work very well there. And similarly with like melee monsters, like you can use the shotgun against the crawlers and crushers. It's not optimal. It's not as good as the hyperblade, but in some situations it might work out better to use the shotgun versus the hyperblade. And just kind of having to use your brain to kind of figure out like what should I be using here, and not necessarily having it be completely straightforward. That makes the game very interesting. It keeps you focused on thinking about how you should go about a situation. So you're kind of using your brains and the depth of the game to conquer challenges versus just how fast can you pull the trigger, how quickly can you react to an incoming attack and dodge it. So it makes the game much more interesting that way. Now, the second point I want to bring up is that because the levels are reliant on the designers placing items, placing weapons, placing health pickups, placing power-ups, all that stuff, it fundamentally makes the levels more interesting. Now, for instance, like in a game like Halo, if there aren't additional like secrets and I'm sure there's secrets, but if there aren't like health power-ups and additional armor and weapons and ammo to go pick up that are elsewhere in the level, there's really no reason to have kind of like these little extra areas and levels. Because I mean, what's the point? It's like there's just extra monsters. It doesn't. It's just distracting you from your goal of progressing through the level. So basically, in a Doom-style FPS, you end up having much more interesting levels because you can have them being much more non-linear. You can have there be these extra areas for you to go explore, and there's actual meaning to those areas because there's things you can go get which help you. There's power-ups and super armor and mega health, all that great stuff. So there's an actual like bonus to going and getting it. I remember in Quake 2. And it's been a long time since I played it, but I do remember distinctly I don't think the game was split up into episodes, but I do remember like you could go to there was a secret level you could go to like fairly early in the game, and like the objective of the secret level was to like find this badass gun, and if I recall correctly, it was like the super shotgun. But yeah, so you got to go to like a secret level to get this like awesome weapon. That's a really cool thing, and that's something you can only do in like a Doom-style FPS. Like that's not really something that works, I don't think, in a Halo type game. So there's all these really cool things you can do with the levels to make them much more non-linear and interesting, and just really promote a sense of exploration, which is just it's really a lot of fun to kind of explore some of these larger levels and explore all the little nooks and crannies, and have there be actual meaning to doing so, actual benefits to going and exploring these extra areas. Now, the last point I want to bring up is that because your defense is coming from movement and you being able to evade monster attacks versus just hide behind things, that basically results in you being able to take on multiple monsters at once, giving this kind of whole man versus army thing, and that feels awesome. Being able to take on just hordes of monsters at the same time with just shots and projectiles whizzing by your head, it makes you feel like a badass. And I mean, to me, that's like the biggest thing that's missing in a Halo-style FPS. You're always hiding behind something so that your giant bullet sponge body doesn't soak up missiles till you die. You're sitting there waiting for your shields to recharge, your health to regenerate, whatever. You're not out there in the action. You're not out there. You're not out there taking on what's attacking you. You're hiding from it. And I mean, to me, that was always the greatest thing about Doom. It's like you moved so fast. The monster projectiles would come whipping at you. You'd have to dodge them. And it was just so much fun. It just made you feel awesome. Just being able to take on all those monsters at the same time. Pretty much fearlessly, and it's like you were still vulnerable. And I think in Wrack you're more vulnerable. projectiles move faster, they do more damage. But you know, it's such a great, satisfying feeling to just kind of take on everything at once like a badass and not have to shy away from a fight. And you know, I mean, to me, that's like one of the biggest things. It's just missing in modern FPSs, and that's, you know, it's kind of something that I'd really like to see come back. You know, we're doing our best to try and make that happen. So that's why I feel like this genre should still be around. I really think it's a fundamentally very sound genre, and I'd certainly like to see more games in this genre made. I think we're seeing a bit of a resurgence, you know, with Wrack and some other games that are coming out. And hopefully that continues. Hopefully that trend continues to grow, and you know, hopefully we see some more of these games, because I really think they've been sorely missed. Well, this has been the Wrack video blog for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you next time.